Hello there, my name is Matthew Greiner, and thank you for watching this instructional video on how to make a ceramic pumpkin. Ceramic pumpkins are excellent gifts to your friends and family during the holiday season. More specifically, I think they make excellent gifts if you decide to put a jack-o'-lantern face into them during Halloween. These are a great way for friends to decorate around the house and add to that festive spirit of harvest. But if you don't like Halloween, you don't have to carve a face into it. Just simply leave it faceless, and you can use it as a wonderful pumpkin to decorate around your table during Thanksgiving and the harvest time. So, excellent gifts for friends and family. Now, in today's video, what we're going to be covering is how do you actually make a ceramic pumpkin. We're going to go through all of the steps from the very beginning to the very end. We're going to cover the supplies that you'll need, the tools that you'll be using to work with the clay and to make it into a pumpkin. We're also going to be talking about some creative ideas on putting faces on there and some pottery techniques to make this all work. We're also going to talk about the bone dry phase that the pumpkin will go through and how do you work with the clay at that point in time. We're also going to be covering glazing and firing, and at the very end, how do you give these away as gifts to your friends and family. Now on the supplies and tools. Obviously, the first thing you're going to need to make a ceramic pumpkin is some clay. I like to use what is called Bravo Mix. This is an excellent clay for handcrafting and for working with small little intricate pieces like this. It has a high consistency of sand, which actually adds to the durability of the actual clay and makes it a little bit more forgiving in wear and tear in life. So Bravo Mix, you're going to want to pick some of this up. You can get this at Michael's, an arts and crafts store, or online. You can just simply do a Google search for Bravo Mix, and you'll find a few vendors that are selling this wonderful clay. Once you get your clay, you're going to want to make what we call a slip mix. And what all slip is this clay that is extremely moist. And that's what we have right here. It's very soft, it's very, very moist clay. It's kind of like the stuff that you see on the bottom of a riverbed, right, when you're out exploring. And it's too soft to actually sculpt with, but this has just the right consistency when you are working with clay and making the pinch pots and forming those, and you put the slip on the joints of inside of that clay, and that marries the two together. So you're going to want to make some slip. You're also going to want a paddle tool. A paddle tool right here, after you've made your pinch pots and formed them and made them into a ball, you're going to want to use something like this to hammer it into position or shape it into position, just like this. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail in the next few moments. Other tools, you're going to need a needle tool. A needle tool is very important to the potter. You're going to be using this to give your rough sketch of the actual jack-o'-lantern face. You're going to be using this in the pinch pots to scar or score the edges and use the slip to marry that together. And you're also going to need a carving tool. This is what you're going to be using to carve the actual ribs into the actual pumpkin itself. And you're also going to want to have a knife tool, which is this piece right here. I like to use this for actually carving the mouth in, carving the nose in, and carving the eyes. Great tool. And that really covers you as far as all of the tools that you're going to need in the initial carving process. Now once you get out of the carving process and you're in the bone dry state, you're going to want something like this. This is just simply a sponge that has a rough consistency for taking food off dishes. Works great on the actual clay pumpkins and getting them to a nice smooth state. That's all you're going to need, ladies and gentlemen, to make a clay ceramic pumpkin. Well, we're ready to start making our pumpkin. So let's grab some clay out of the clay bag, which you want to keep in the back of your mind that the amount of clay that you pull out of the bag right now, the bowl size, is going to be pretty close to the actual size of the pumpkin that you're going to be making. So I want a pumpkin about 2 inches in diameter, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So I pull out some clay. It's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter. Form into a nice little ball. And that's a good size for a pumpkin right there. That's a real good size for a pumpkin, in my opinion. I like that size. You can go bigger, you can go smaller, depending upon your preference. But for me, that's going to be perfect. You're going to want to cut that right in two. We're going to do actually now is we're going to make a pinch pot. 2 pinch pots. Perfect. You look at the inside of the clay, it's good consistency. We don't see any air bubbles. That's a good sign for us that this is a good piece of clay that we're working with. So just simply make a pinch pot by pushing your thumb into the center of that piece of clay, that half sphere. And start to push it out. And what you want to do is just make a little bowl. A little bowl of your hand by making it with your thumb and your other fingers. You want to push this to about 1/4 inch in diameter. The clay walls I'm talking about. You just keep on pulling it out, stretching, stretching, stretching. A lot of fun. Keep on pushing it out, pulling out. It's important that you don't go too far and make it too thin. If you make it too thin when it comes to the carving, you'll punch through, and it might be hard to recover. You might have to scrap the whole pumpkin. Better to err on extra thickness than on thinness. You can always shave it off. It's harder to add back on. That's pretty good for me. I like that. So let's start on our second one. Once again, put your thumb in there, start to push out, just like that. And that's our pinch pot. There we go. Keep on going, pushing it out. We want these to be about the exact same size because we're going to marry these two into one in just a moment. A little more, not one, not quite there yet. There we go. You can see, almost a perfect sphere. We do next, take our needle tool, and we are going to rough the outer edges of this pinch bowl. It's actually known as scoring. We're going to score this clay. Just like that. Just take your needle tool and rough it up. This helps when you put the two together with a slip to bring them together as one piece. Make it a stronger bond. And we do the same to the other side. Keep on scoring away. Scoring away. Perfect. Both edges are pretty nicely scored. Now we're going to add our slip. It's really glue for a potter. Just add it on the edges there. There. A little more right there. A little more right there. You want to get it on all sides right here. It's very important that you have a slip on all parts of it. Okay, so you can see how that is. Take the two, bring them together as one. Perfect, just like that. And what we want to do now is smooth it all out. Bring it down right there, pinch it together a little bit. Now we're almost there. A nice clay ball. It's a little soft right now to carve. Just want to bring it together, make it nice. One thing that you would like to do, if you find the seam on the ball, you're going to want to take your finger and go back from one side to the other, bringing clay from one side to the other. And that helps strengthen the bond, and it really makes it a lot stronger. Good. So that one right there, he's ready to work with. Probably in about 24 hours, he'll harden up, and we can be able to carve him at that point in time and give him his shape. And that's how you make a pinch pot. Marry the two together, and that's your base for your ceramic pumpkin. Alright, now time for some creative ideas when it comes to carving these pumpkins. One creative idea for your pumpkin is to have a traditional pumpkin shape. The way we're going to do this is by putting in ribs into the actual pumpkin. The way we put the ribs into the pumpkin is you take your pottery carving tool and you simply carve a line from the very top of the pumpkin to the very bottom. Do this on the other side of the pumpkin, so you now have one straight line cutting or dividing your pumpkin into two pieces. Take this half and now also divide it once again in half. So you'll actually have 4 quarters on your pumpkin. Each of your quarters, take your pottery carving tool again and divide those also in half. So you'll actually have 8 division points on your pumpkin. This will give it a nice traditional jack-o'-lantern look. To enhance the ribs or the definition that they have, you can take your pottery tool and continue to carve out excess material out of the ribs. Be careful not to punch through the pumpkin at this point in time. If you do so, it can be catastrophic as far as moving forward. You might have to scrap the pumpkin at this point in time. So be very careful not to punch all the way through. Now, traditionally, you'd see the triangle eyes and the triangle nose or a circle nose, but I've been experimenting with them, and one thing I like is 2 circle eyes and a clown mouth. So we're going to put that on this one right here. Before you begin to carve the face into your jack-o'-lantern, look at the actual surface of the pumpkin. Select the area that is the most appealing to the eye and begin to carve your face into this portion of the pumpkin. Yeah, that's good. That's good. This is a good one. Perfecto. Ready to go to the next one. Keep on moving. All right. Now for the next part in making our pumpkins. Once we've sculpted the pumpkin and have our basic shape down, we've let it dry out. The pumpkin is now in the form that we call bone dry. All of the moisture has been removed or has evaporated from the clay. And if you take a look right here, pretty solid bone dry pumpkin, just like a bone dry. Now, as you can notice right here, it's still quite rough. So what we want to do in the bone dry state is begin to take away the rough edges, and we do that by using a scrub, something that you'd use for washing and cleaning dishes. That is just the right abrasiveness for taking off these edges. Now, before we do this, because we're going to have quite a bit of dust coming into the air at this point in time, you want to have a safety mask, something to keep the particles from getting into your respiratory system. So let's put that on right now. Okay, we're ready to go. So you got your pumpkin right there. The key objective right now is just to get rid of all of the rough edges. Let's start. And there you go. That's pretty smooth right there. The rest of the impervious areas will fill out with the glaze, and that will make an excellent gift for this Halloween season. And that's how you get them ready for glazing. All right, the next step in the pumpkin making process is to glaze the fired pumpkins. So the way we do that, well, they come out, as you can see right here. This one's been fired. It's ready to go for a glazing process. What we need to do before we actually glaze it, we want to take a wet sponge or damp sponge and just simply wipe away the dust. Not too much moisture in there. If you put too much moisture, if you soak it in water, you'd have to wait about a few hours, probably about 12 hours before you could actually glaze it. But taking a damp sponge like this and just wiping off the excess dust is all that's necessary. Take a carpenter's pencil like this, and that's about the right distance that you need for your barrier between no glaze and glaze. And what I mean by that, when you melt glaze, it will actually roll down. So we don't want it to stick to the bottom of the kiln. So we put this line on there, this pencil line, and we don't want to go past that in terms of glazing. So you can see right there, there is a line around the pumpkin. Looks like that. That's our line to stay within. Get your glaze here. And we put our first coat on. I like to start from one face side and just move my way around. Stay within the line all the way to the top. The first application of glaze takes a little bit longer than the second, and the reason for that is that we're putting it on bisqueware, which is very porous, and it really just sucks the moisture out of the paintbrush, and it kind of takes a little bit more for that first application than the second. Face here, and I like to do the face last. I do a little heavy coat on the face the first time. That way it's properly done. Make sure you get inside the eyes. A little heavy. Right there, just get inside of there, boom, like that. Get inside the nose here. And just get below the mouth. Right there. Careful not to go below that line too much. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is a pumpkin. First application of glaze put on. Nice even coat going all the way around. Time to put the second coat on. Thank you for watching this instructional video on how to make ceramic pumpkins. Hopefully you found it informative, instructional, and creative. At this time, if you have any further questions or comments on this video or how to make a ceramic pumpkin, please leave them at the bottom of this YouTube video, and I'll be sure to reply back to them as soon as I possibly can. Also, if you want to get into this and you want to learn more about it, I highly encourage you to seek out a local ceramic studio where you can begin to practice to craft a pottery. here in the city of Reno, we have such a studio. It is known by Wedge Ceramic Studio, and they are located on Dickerson Avenue right here in Reno. Great place to learn the craft of pottery and at the same time to fire your ceramic projects. Once again, thank you for watching this instructional video on how to make ceramic pumpkins.